1937 is where I would begin at. 1937, what happened around that in Trinidad was we had a lot of strikes, oil field strikes. We lived in the oil field. Right around me was oil wells, and there was a whistle that used to blow at quarter to 7 a.m. and 12:15, 12 o'clock, and 3:30 and 4 o'clock. And that's to let the workers know that time to be on the job, or time to break out of the job, you know what I'm saying? So, there was a lot of strikes in 1937, as I said, because the oil field had been operating for at least 20 years already. From early 1900, they found oil on this old man's piece of property, and they exploited that to the fullest. Texaco, BP. Well, mostly where I lived was BP, and they had a. I remember my grandmother saying to us one day, well, the village grew up really fast, like overnight, because suddenly we had all these other like other islands coming down to Trinidad. It was like a gold rush, My town was like a gold rush in the U.S. where oil was there, so the roads got better. When there was a little dirt track, the oil company added roads so they can move their trucks. I remember it had this one junction that they used to have to turn the corner to stay on the main road. But the guy who ran the business there used to build this porch a little way out onto the road, And we used to joke about it all the time because the big trucks, the rigs, would pass and break it down. But they can't turn, because it was so tight. So every time a big rig passed, it got broken. He got money from the oil company for the damage. So this was it was a thing, And but apart from that, that's neither here nor there. But apart from that, what was going on around the village at the time? They had, as I said, had a lot of strikes, a lot of layoffs, a lot of worker business. It was all workers. There was no trade unions at the time. The oil field workers trade union came about around that time, 1937, and thereafter. There was one old man come down from Grenada. His name was Uriah Butler. He was I think he was I want to believe that, I don't know that, but he had like a Garvey type philosophy, and where he managed to get rights for the workers, and he and this other man named Krishna Ramnarayan, they used to call him Adrian Colarenzi. There's a big center complex built after his name, and that's where the government buildings are, and some opposition government buildings are there. So, but anyway, this guy Adrian Colarenzi, he was instrumental in forming other trade unions, like the oil field workers trade union. He helped with that, and he helped the all Trinidad and Tobago work. What's it called? Anyway, it was a sugarcane thing, their union, and they had a lot of smaller unions than the teachers' union startup, and different places had different unions, because at that time no one was allowed to join the unions, because you know what unions do. They agitate for better pay, they argue for workers' rights, and the oil company didn't really want to pay that, because they saw no reason why they should have to pay that. Now, my grandfather was involved in that in 1937. I wasn't even around, so what I'm giving you is second-hand stories that I heard from my grandmother, what he used to do, and what the neighbors. And then in from the 60s, my father started working in the oil fields. We were being trained to work in the oil field as well. I think every youth in the village, every kid in the village was being trained to take up a position in the oil field at some point. Unfortunately, I never worked in the oil field, so I didn't really like being dirty. I didn't like oil field business, and I mean, I used to go down there like every morning, look, act like I'm looking for work just to make my parents feel like, oh, well, we can't get no, but I didn't really want to do that, I had totally different ideas, and anyway, bear with me, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, See, I have no notes, I didn't make no notes on that, so I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. There was it's one of the only times I've seen Africans and Indians not arguing with each other on racial terms, They never had that, really, we never really experienced that, But later on, it started up, when things, because the government was involved in keeping the two peoples apart. They used to push one line at one and push another line at, at the other race. So you find a lot of disharmony was taking place as well, because where we used to hang out, the place where we used to hang out was that was the road I lived on. It was where the market was, so that was like the center of town, Everybody would gather there in the evening, and we just hanging out, Like there used to be a lot of discussions about how the place is being run and how what the government was doing, what they didn't like, what they liked, But I was too little to really comprehend the magnitude of what they were talking about. So we just around hearing stuff, hearing this, hearing that. And until 1970 come around, then I became fully aware of what was really taking place before me. Because in 1970, my father came home and asked me, did I want to go with him to listen to the Black Power boys talking on the corner. So I said, yeah, I don't know nothing about that. So, but my idea was not to go listen to nobody about no blackness. My thing was, I was going to be out on the street after 6. When was the time we never allowed to go out on the street. At 14, when I went out there, I see all this police and stuff all around the place, soldiers, army, the people doing all whatever, and there was a lot of conversations about Africans and Indians uniting against the government and against the oppression that was going. Because at that point in time, we had no black people working in the banks, Barclays and whatever bank. No black people working in high-paying jobs, Or what was considered a high-paying job was all white people. So 1970 come and it started changing, a little bit changing, because people start burning down stuff and damaging things, and you know what I'm saying? So, again in 1937 there's a junction, the same junction I was born on.
Question, where the white people come from in Trinidad?
Where did they come from? Through the oil company.
Oh, so they came there from the oil company, and that's why they had high-paying jobs.
Yeah, plus you had white people there, but you had some of them was living there too. The ones in the city, the mulattoes, their children would get the better paying job. So the colored people was, you was like servants and whatever slavery and colonialism was to America, it was to the Caribbean and Britain as well, because we were under British rule still. 1937, we were still under British rule because we didn't stop being under British rule until 19 62. That's when the island got independence along with Jamaica and you know. So at that point in time, everybody felt a little bit easy, like the yoke been lifted, so to speak, you know. But it was still hard because the mentality was still there. Even though we got independence, nobody knew what to do because we people was like, what do we do? And yes, sir.
Port of Spain.
Yeah.
Is that the capital?
Yes.
I was in the Navy in 1968, and we were going across the Atlantic, but before we went, we were supposed to stop in Port of Spain, Trinidad. I got a radio message that we couldn't go there because they were rioting.
Yeah.
That was in the spring of '68.
That would probably be what's called the water riots.
I thought you was about to say
Right.
that was you.
Huh?
I thought you was gonna say that was me.
No. I wasn't even. I was probably this big. Well, I'm going out there to be on the riot. I could go riot this big. No. That would have been people like my parents. You know, I mean, they were not involved in politics. We lived in the country. We lived in the deep country, like country. Like even the roads were not city type roads. But in the 60s, in the 50s, things started changing gradually. You know, roads started getting better. We had one main road that led to the oil field, to and from the oil field. You see what I'm saying? And that was the road, the big rigs. Because those days, somebody had developed a mobile rig, the first mobile rig, and they realized they need roads to run it on. So that's when the little dirt track started disappearing. When the mobile rig started coming in. So that's would be the rig that they put on a truck and you know you could drill. It's really a drill, really. It's a big them drills that you drill wells with over here, like a bigger version of that, you know. So
So it's Port of Spain. Is that the capital?
Yeah.
That's the capital. Okay.
yeah, but they didn't. No, there was no drilling going on in the capital.
Right.
There was most of the drilling that went on in Trinidad was either offshore or in the countryside. You see, and we happen to be living in the countryside.
Right.
So, but my village is the one place where 1937, whatever happened in the riots, left a stain on my village. You know?
Right.
It's like they were like them people down there like too much trouble and they like to argue with the government and blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? So that stigma that be there with you all the time, it's a stigma that we even up till now, we still have that stigma. It is like them people is like outcasts kind of. You know what I'm saying? The village, I go down there. If you go down there right now, there's buildings that's still in that village unoccupied. That's been there since the 50s. You know what I'm saying? I go there, when I go down there, the galvanized, the roof made of metal, it's all brown now. It's not even silver anymore. It's brown. It's like rusted and it's, you know, it's totally dilapidated. The whole village is like gone under, you know, and all we have now is surviving out of that is one or two buildings that's still operating, and we had like, there was a time then up and down the main road was all rum shops. Every 2 doors was a rum shop. So everybody wanted to, because the oil field, when the workers get off on a Thursday, that's the first place they headed. It was like a cowboy town, you know. It's like that's what you know. Cowboys when they get out, when they come from a cattle drive or something, the first place they go is a bar, you know. And so that kind of involved prostitution. It involved all kinds of illicit stuff like that. That none of the village people themselves were engaged in. But because of the oil field, it brought in all these different people from different islands coming to look for work. Port of Spain has a place just outside the town. You can see it from the city. It's called Ravin. That's all immigrants. The family, that's the immigrant town basically, when immigrants would come in the 30s and the 40s and you know what I'm saying, and the 20s and go there to live, because that was the only place they had available. It was like government land, and they built their houses, little house. I mean, I'm telling you, houses were like this close together. You know what I'm saying? Little shacks, you know. And people live there. Now their houses are built up and they are building up, and the kids that was there, they born Trinidadian. They're not like foreign, you know what I'm saying? Because all of them had like, I mean, people still have little prejudices against small islanders, you know. I mean, even because you come here to take my job and you take all the work, we can't get, you know what I'm saying? Just like how people in America say, "Oh, you immigrants coming here to take our jobs," and it's not jobs that they want to do. But Trinidad was oil booming at the time, and in so doing, they developed places for their people to live. Like there was a supermarket that we call Hilo. It's a regular U.S. type supermarket. It was inside the compound of the oil field. You see what I'm saying? So we used to get to go down there once in a blue moon. And when we had to go down there, we had to like, just like the white kids, you know, put on like shirt and like put your shirt in your pants and socks and shoes and keep up with the Jones kind of thing, you know. And when you go in there, they would all be looking at you like yeah, you know, come over here, come here, you know. So, but you know, we loved it. It was like going overseas, you know. It was like going to a foreign country, because all we saw was white folks, and not the whole village went there to shop, because sometimes people don't have money to shop there, and they're not going to go in there. But it was open for the workers. If your parent was working in the oil field, you can go shop there. It's like a member thing, you know. So we used to go there sometimes, and we used to like doing it, because that way we get to mingle with the white kids and, you know, see all the foreign stuff that's there, like Kellogg's, cornflakes, and all of them, you know, chocolates, and you know. And so anyway, 1962, they argued, Eric Williams and Rujanat Kapu, they were two government people, they argued for independence from England. And England was like, okay, well, we'll give you all independence, but let's see what you all do with it. So, just like all the other islands were arguing for independence, because everybody has, you know, want to be on their own. We don't want to be under colonization anymore, but because the whole colonial mentality is not easy to get rid of. You know, people think, well, those older folks, they thought, well, as soon as we get independence, we you know, those days were done. But it wasn't done, because that mentality was still around until quite recently. You know, that mentality, it breed a different kind of mentality from being that whole colonial mentality. Now, the kids who are born today, they don't know nothing about that. They don't have that kind of mentality. Now it's all self-owned and whatever have you. Know how just how it is in the U.S. The kids are rude. They're killing each other. They're like the place is flooded with guns and ammunition and cocaine, and you know. So anyway, I think I'm going ahead of myself here with that. I mean, there's stuff I want to say before that. Trinidad is only 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. It takes 2 hours by boat to get there. By a little fishing boat, you take 2 hours. And you can go straight down the Orinoco or the Amazon River. And you can get a lot of stuff illegally. So what a lot of guys used to do was bring stuff like cigarettes and alcohol from Trinidad and trade it for. Those days it wasn't cocaine. It wasn't cocaine trade, it was weed trade. So they would go over there and trade alcohol, cigarettes, whatever have you, for weed. Bring it back to Trinidad and sell it, because you would get more money for it in Trinidad than you would get in Venezuela or whatever other country it's coming from. So we got independence in 1962. The country had a big celebration. A few years later, we turned out the Queen of England. We got rid of her, and we had a republic. They instituted a republic because the Prime Minister at the time, Eric Williams, he was a Oxford-educated person, and he wrote several books, one of which he banned himself.
He banned his own book?
Yeah. It was considered subversive literature. But if you read the book, it's the man is talking the truth about colonialism. So he didn't want to go against his colonial masters. I think that was the idea, because that would ruin him as a prime minister, as a choice for prime minister. So he kind of narrowed it back a little bit, and he put a ban on it. So after that, there's a lot of protests and stuff going on. Then 1970 came around, and the same set of protests was going. People were arguing for the same things. The same things we were arguing, my grandfathers argued for, is the same things we were arguing for. For better pay, equal rights and opportunities. You know the usual thing people argue for with governments when you're in a colonial situation. What happened in Trinidad was like people became really complacent. You know what I'm saying? They start thinking, well, things are going to change, but we don't really care too much because you guys bring back the white people. Things was better under them. Then things were better with the white folks. So bring those people back. We need those people. People still say that up to today. What are you doing? We should still have the white man here, But it doesn't make sense, because we don't need the white people to do nothing. Because there's no evidence to suggest, or this shouldn't surprise anyone of you. There's no place on the face of the earth where white people have been has not been colonized. You see, there's no place on the face of the earth, no people on the face of the earth where white folks have been in the outreach. Be nice about it, and the outreach with the exploitation has not been affected by colonization. Every people, every place, every person outside, from the time they start traveling around the world and visiting here and realizing the wealth and because remember, them people have nothing in their land, There's no oil over there. There's no cocoa and coffee, and you get English coffee. There's no tea. You have English breakfast tea. You see what I'm saying? Those are all our stuff. Chocolates grow in Africa, it grows in the West Indies, it's a tropical plant. So we have French chocolate. The first thing about making chocolate, now they're coming up with all these things, and they lay claim to it. You see, and if we try to make Starbucks, let me tell you a little short thing. Starbucks took the town of Harar and Sidamo in Ethiopia to court for the coffee farmers in these two places, using their names of their villages, which they had for centuries. They used it on their coffee. This is coffee from Sidamo, this is coffee from Harar. Starbucks took them to court and win, and they now no longer can use it. You understand what's going on? That's why I don't buy no Starbucks coffee. Ever since I learned that, I cut them off. I no Starbucks coffee. And most of they have a thing they call free trade. You know what free trade coffee is, right? It's like we give them equal, whatever your coffee is worth, I'm giving you that. And a lot of people like to do that. A lot of these so-called holistic places in America do that. Well, this is free trade, and they advertise it: free trade coffee, free trade, free trade. So that should make me feel good. I don't want to feel good about that. Leave it alone. Get away from there and leave the people that they let them. Well, what will be a free trade? Let them sell it to you at their price, not at your price. You see what I'm saying? That's what free trade is to me. That's what it means. I tell you the price, you pay me the money. You don't like it, leave it alone and let somebody else who's going to pay me. That's free trade for me. We don't have no negotiate. This is not negotiable. You go with you see. So that's what that whole thing means. But anyway, getting back to Trinidad now. We used to produce coffee and cocoa and fruits and whatever. It was mostly agriculture, sugarcane. You know, but mostly that used to happen until they find oil. Then that changed. The government in their quest, I would say this, it's a financial quest for immediate betterment, eventually got rid of the agriculture in the country. So now we import everything. We import things we used to plant. So now they're trying their best now to get people interested in agriculture again, like the farmers and whoever has. But they don't have no set of land because they want to build houses. People need places to live. So they're taking back the government land from them, and so there's more protests to come. There's more bacchanal, what we call bacchanal, like warfare, like it's really, you have to be living down there to understand what I'm saying. You know, I could only find like local words that we use down there, like bacchanal is, you know what bacchanal is? Anybody here? That's like